Just for today, everything's okay, everything's okay. Never comes again, another day like yesterday. Just for today, everything's okay, everything's okay.
I feel like the world as I knew it, or as it possibly was, is is dying. And there's some grief, there's some grieving involved in that. And it brings up a whole lot of realizations. One of the realizations is that we can all sit around and scream about how deplorable certain leaders are and events are, and we can bemoan the evil and the ignorance of other people who sign off on this stuff or even wholeheartedly endorse it. But the truth is, we allowed this to happen. We stood by while dishonesty and disingenuousness was built into an entire system. And we stood by and said, well, that doesn't seem right. Well, that should, somebody should do something about that. And it was only ever for us to do something about. And I'll give you a visual and a couple of examples of what I may mean by this. And guys, I know this might be really, really far afield. I'm just sort of like thinking out loud. I don't even know what the truth value is of what I'm saying, because it seems very esoteric, but also seems very anchored right in my gut. As many of you know, we lost our home to the wildfires in January, and we had been leasing for about 8 years. We had no insurance, whatever. So it was an utter and complete, a final catastrophic loss. Everything that we had built up and created as our ecosystem was gone in a moment. And I'm going to share something with you that's going to make me sound weird, but I don't know what else to say other than the fact that photographs verify this. The year prior to losing our house to wildfires, something was happening that I didn't understand, and my wife has corroborated this, that she didn't understand. We had developed a relationship to the house. It's where both of our kids were born, raised. It felt like where we were going to retire. We were planning on buying it if possible. And, there were trees and there were hawks that would come and rest in one tree by us. There were owls. There was a family of raccoons. We had a front yard, a backyard. We had a view, sometimes out over the ocean. It was just, it was a dream. But the last year that we were there, and I had used it to begin planting. One year there was just an enormous amount of luscious, like tomatoes and peppers and all, did very well, and I poured myself into it. And the last year that we were there, it just seemed like everything was dying. I don't know what it was. It's not necessarily that it was drier than it had been. There had been drier years. I was still watering and keeping things alive. I had built a sort of like a mosquito net, a giant greenhouse, not giant, but like a greenhouse structure around the plants so that the worms couldn't get to them, the butterflies, the moths, whatever. And stuff just kept drying out and dying. And this might sound really wacky, but when we go back and look at pictures and we look through many years prior, everything was verdant and green and There was a lusciousness to it, a life to it, to the house, to the wood. And in that last year before the fire, it just seemed like everything was thinning out. Everything was dying out. And I mean that emotionally, spiritually, psychologically, as well as physically. The life seemed to be sort of emptying out. And you look at it, and it's like everything was browner and drier. And again, it was not a drier year. There'd been other years that were far drier. The weeks leading up to it were quite dry. And so it's this weird thing. You know, I don't have a lot of deep spiritual beliefs. I believe what I believe, but I'm not someone who knows about chakras and like what I don't know. It's not what I've been interested in or what I studied. I can only tell you that the year prior to our home burning, both my wife and I had a feeling that something had changed, that this wasn't our place, that there was something, that this place was going through a process that didn't belong to us, an evolution that maybe we'd had some part in, but that we didn't have control over. There was nothing to be done about it. And we woke up one morning to a vicious, dry, hot wind, and we all went to work. And 6 hours later, everything was gone. From one end of the city to the other, everything. Sorry about my throat, guys. I rode my bike in. It's a little cold. Whatever. So there was this process, and that's what it feels like the entire world is going through right now. That we're sort of coming to and waking up and looking around and going, wait, what happened? Where's the beauty? Where's the love? Where's the community? Where's the sense of magic of what it is to be alive? And so now I'll give you this other image. I was thinking about this as I was riding on the way in. And I was looking around, and I see a lot of unhoused folks who suffer terribly now that it's cold in the middle of winter. And I felt the desire to help them, but like I'm on my way to work. What am I going to do other than maybe stop and give them cash? And I don't have any with me. And I was just going, it just feels like the entire earth as we knew it is dying. And that doesn't mean that there haven't always been horrific things going on. There have been, always been horrific things going on. But I think back to when I was in middle school. I started a public school in 7th grade, and the first year was rough, but then I sort of integrated because I was fairly athletic, and I gained acceptance and made friends and got to know teachers and coaches or whatever. And there would be games. And I grew up in I grew up on the side of a mountain, but we went to school in a small sort of farming, blue-collar town. There were people whose fathers were telephone repair people. There were ranchers. There were farmers who grew Christmas trees to sell. I bucked bales for money. I picked berries for money. I worked at a gift shop at Multnomah Falls, right, running the cash register. It was like that kind of place. Like even when I worked the cash register, I was working at Multnomah Falls Lodge, where at lunch I would go outside and run up to the first bridge to sit there and look up at this massive falls pouring down with, spray flying in my face. So it was that sort of place, a small town place. And I think about, when there was a football game and you were going to go to the football game, the profound sense of connection and excitement, the magic of it, to come pouring into this green, lush grass and the seats. And I think we had lights at that point. I'm pretty sure we did. We had stadium lighting. And to see your friends and to see all your community gathered together there and this exciting thing, you want to win, you want your team to win, and later on I also played. And, you know, you're 12 years old, 13 years old, so you're coursing with adult sex hormones and a sense of connection and a sense of excitement. And it's coming on nighttime and the lights are shining. And there's literally, I have no language to explain the sense of magic, but the profound sense of love that I felt for these people, my community, the sense of connection. And there were people who behaved badly within that environment. You know, there were people who threatened to beat me up because I was a new kid, or, you know, seniors who hazed the like there were people who behaved badly. There were in the community kids being sexually assaulted by someone, or like it's humans. But there was this profound sense of connection and purpose. And it strikes me of magic, of wonder, of love for being and of love for being in community with others. And it strikes me that we have not honored that. We didn't honor it. Whatever your version is of that. It isn't that I'm selling you small town culture, and there are people right in the United States, one of their favorite, you know, one of wealthy white people's favorite thing to do is to pretend that, you know, middle class or blue collar white people are the holders of all racism, hatred, and ignorance, and it's a fucking lie. It's absolute bullshit. I've lived in both communities and everything in between, and I'm here to tell you that racism, hatred, bias, blah, 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 knows no cultural boundary, knows no financial boundary. Like, let's not even get into that, right? But whatever your version is of that beauty, of that magic, that sense of being, that sense of connection, that love for communion, that love for community, and that it reflected your own excited sense of being, and that you shared that with other kids, right? And then maybe parents experienced that through you. It was a remembering of how magical it is to be alive and to get a chance to experience other people. For whatever reason, whether it's through a football game or through a small town community or through a big city community, like whatever, like I don't care what it is. I'm saying that sometimes you wake up and you remember what that was. Okay, so whatever your version of that is, that exists and that existed. And that's what this is and that's what this was. And I don't know anything. I don't have deep spiritual insights. I'm just a human attempting to understand what I'm experiencing, attempting to deal with and withstand and be a present, good human being in the midst of what I'm experiencing. Much of which I've created through unconscious behaviors and actions. What this feels like, the current leadership in this country that is unabashedly and openly making clear that he and they intend to take over and run things at their whim, with extremely self-serving motives, thinking it's funny that people still buy it, and laughing in their faces and laughing in the faces of the rest of us who protest, and they think it's funny that, because they know, yeah, go ahead, protest. That's how we keep doing what we're doing, because we just keep doing it, and you're like, how dare you? And they're like, we dare. Go fuck yourself. We don't care. What are you going to do about it? And we're like, oh, shucks, we're victims. We don't know what to do. We built this. What this all feels like is it feels like that year before our house burned, where you start realizing how beautiful it all was, and how much beauty and connection was possible, and how much magic was possible through your remembering your state of being, remembering what it is to be, the magic of what it is to be, the ineffable, indescribable, incomprehensible nature of being, and that you had flashes of it and glimpses of it, as I did through going to a Friday night football game and feeling connected and in love with my community and in love with being. All of it. All of it. We focused and focused and focused on, I'm a victim of this, I'm a victim of that. And there are people being victimized, and we dismissed it. It's just speaking to Americans. It's like, you know, when I stopped buying the bullshit that we're going around, that we go to war because we're rescuing people, why I knew Iraq was just complete bullshit. Like, oh, we were rescuing the Iraqi people. Because near 1 million people had been slaughtered by hand in Rwanda over a period of 3 months. And there was no solid military, there was no danger and no threat to United Nations or the United States going in and putting a stop to that. It would have been stopped within days. And we sat back, and everyone sat back, and Europe sat back, and the world sat back and let it happen and argued over what the definition of genocide is, because we didn't feel like doing anything about it. From that moment forward, American government, you can shut the fuck up. Because we do not go into other countries and kill people because we're rescuing anybody ever. And now they're pretending that we're going to go into Venezuela to rescue this country from drugs. It's a lie. It's a bald-faced lie. Because if we gave a shit, we would have instantly gone into Rwanda and stopped. Over 800,000 people were slaughtered with machetes. Most of them by hand. You know how much work that takes? How sick it is that someone had the will to do the work? How sick it is that the United States and the world stood by and over a period of 2 or 3 months and let it happen? We have not honored the magic. We have not honored the magic. And we have accepted lies. I accepted the lie of the Iraq War. I remember arguing with a friend from Africa. Not arguing, but she was like, you know, we shouldn't be there. We should bring the boys back. And I was like, oh, you know, weapons of mass destruction and blah, blah. Just a bald-faced lie that played on our emotional immaturity, our innocence, and the fact that we have financially benefited from bad actors slaughtering people and taking down other governments and destroying other countries and destroying other cultures and plundering their natural resources so that we could spend $6 on a spiced pumpkin latte or whatever the fuck ever it is. I don't mean I love coffee. I don't mean to impugn anyone. Like whatever convenience you feel like putting in the slot there. And when we bought those lies, we were pretending that we were not part of what was draining the earth of the magic that keeps it lush and green and beautiful, that makes a beautiful, abundant environment in which we can all live. And we have not honored the animals. We have not honored the plants. We have plundered for convenience. Our history is rife with technological advances that have come out of war over and over and over. That's not because war is some magical thing that can help us invent stuff. That's because we only apply our money, our political will, and our creativity when we're coming out of absolute horror and fight or flight. And we have it in between. It exists in between. We're intelligent, scientific, clever, wise. We have the money, we have the resources in between. But we don't make those advances until we have to. Until we believe that our country is threatened and our people are threatened or other people are threatened. And then suddenly we make amazing advancements. The other thing that's driven a lot of human history forward is pornography. So either war and violence or the use of women's bodies for men's pleasure have been two things that have forced us to innovate. They didn't force us. We chose those as our motivations to innovate. And in between, we're like, well, I'm tired. Well, this, the leaders, this and that. Well, they tax us like this. Well, that happened. Well, the news media is bought and paid. Man, stop. We have to stop acting like it's them. They have plundered us because we have positioned ourselves as victims, as helpless. And we've positioned ourselves to be like, oh, life is too overwhelming, et cetera, et cetera. And we didn't do anything about it. And we didn't stand up until they told us to stand up. And when they told us to sit down, we sat down. And in the United States of America, when black people stood up, we just looked the other way when they got beaten and imprisoned and raped. And when their children were bullied and traumatized by police, we just kept looking the other way and going, well, it must be something they did. We created this. We participated in it. We lied about it. We signed off on it. And now we're like, oh my God, I can't believe it. These horrible people. What the fuck are you talking about? We are the horrible people. The emotionally immature and the sick in the head are always going to act the way Trump acts. We signed off on a system. We signed off on lies. We signed off on the two-party system where the left lies as much as the right. They just are better at lying about it, and they pretend that they're our friends, but they're not. Okay, let's come back to the point. It feels like, now this is where it's like, this could be total bullshit. I don't know. How it felt in our home that last year before the wildfires. And then there was a sudden catastrophic change. We were fine. Both my kids were at school. And my wife and I were at work. But everything in our ecosystem and everything we thought we owned became a puddle on the ground or was smoke or ash. Honestly, I don't think we were good stewards of our reality, and I don't think we were good stewards of our own emotional states, and I don't think we were good stewards of our children's environment. I don't know what I mean by that. We were trying. I was watering things. We were in a good community, a spiritual community. We were meditating. We were working out marital problems. But I don't think it was deeply intended enough. I don't think it was awake enough. And I can tell you right now that losing everything woke me up in a way that I don't know if I would have woken up. And I'm grateful for the waking. And now I'm looking at the world and it feels the same. It feels the same. Okay, maybe it's where I'm at. Maybe I'm full of crap. Maybe if I moved to some small town, maybe it's just that I'm a small town boy in a big city. But like whatever, you make up your reasons for why I think and feel this way. I don't care. I don't care, because this podcast episode is not about me saying something that I know is true. It's not. It's not about me saying something that I have a pretty good educated opinion about. This is me just going, I have this gut level feeling about what I'm experiencing, and it feels the same. It feels like the earth itself is dying. And it's our job to own that we all participated in it. We forgot the magic. We forgot the connection. We forgot love of one another. We accepted hatred. We accepted anger towards others. If you deeply hate Trump, it's the same system, man. It's the same system. You have hate in you, and you vibrate at a frequency that creates density and conflict. And like, you can say, yeah, he deserves, like, whatever. I don't have an opinion about it. The guy behaves odiously. It's horrific. He's torturing people, children. And he doesn't care. He thinks it's funny. I know that is behavior worthy of hate. But what I'm saying is, the message has always ever been, you cannot harbor hate. You must find a way to understand yourself and be in a state of being that allows you, yes, to have boundaries. Go, no, I do not participate on this. I do not sign off on it. In fact, I will work against it. But I refuse to engender hate, because that's how he got that way in the first place. I've got incoming. I could probably go on this forever. I could meander because I'm feeling my way forward. I feel like we forgot what middle school football games felt like. What it felt like to be in love with your friends and your community at such a profound level you didn't even know it was profound. It was just what it was to be alive. I feel like we forgot, and I feel like the world's dying of our forgetting. That's it. I feel like the earth is dying of our forgetting. And it may have gone so far that it doesn't matter if we remember now. Remembering now is coming back to self. Maybe there's something new and something beautiful for us, but I feel like in this reality on this earth, once you set things in motion, the way this is set up, the way physics is set up, is the outcomes are going to happen whether you wake up or not. I feel like that's what this reality is. The outcomes are going to happen whether you wake up or not. I feel like we have forgotten what true being is, and the earth is dying of our forgetting. We have forgotten what true being is, and the earth is dying of our forgetting. We have forgotten what true being is, and children are being tortured at the hands of our forgetting. We have forgotten what true being is, and people of other colors, mild, stupid differences in human genetics have been brutalized for years as a result of our forgetting. We have forgotten what true being is, and the earth is dying of our forgetting. And that may be something that's going to follow through the same way we had maybe spiritually woken up. Our house still burned, and we still had to accept the consequences. I'm not saying we caused it. I'm just saying in this reality, there's momentum, and momentum builds. And if you wake up like 2 minutes to midnight's still coming, baby. I feel like we have forgotten true being, and the earth is dying of our forgetting. Be in love. Be love. I love you guys. Talk to you next time.
Just for today, everything's okay, everything's okay.